Welcome, Secretary Pate, and thank you for once again chatting with us about voting in the upcoming election. During the 2020 primary, we saw record turnout in the midst of a pandemic, and I'm wondering, what kind of turnout are you expecting for the upcoming June 7th primary?
Well, we're hoping for a very, very high turnout, but again, it's driven by the candidates and the political parties and their turnout. But you've got two statewide primaries with the U.S. Senate race on both political parties. So I'd hope that will inspire and people will get out there and vote.
Well, I know there are some new election laws on the books. Can you walk older Iowans through some of those recent changes when it
Sure.
comes to voting?
Yeah, probably the major one is you need to watch the window. And I go back to asking people to have a plan to vote. It's not be complicated, but just kind of think it through. The window itself for the early voting is now 20 days, and you can request those absentee ballots right now. And then starting the 18th, you'll be able to vote in person at the courthouse if you choose to exercise that option. And the other key thing is you've got to allow for the mail. So that means your ballot needs to be in the hands of the auditor on June 7th, not June 8th, 9th, or 10th. So we really encourage you to allow for those 3 or 4 days for the mail. Unfortunately, it takes that long in some cases. In fact, the auditor, last day they can process a request for an absentee ballot would be May 23rd, because they're trying to make sure you're successful with the mail as well. So those are kind of the dates you want to watch. So it's May 18th, you can vote in person, and May 23rd is the last day that the auditor can actually process any absentees that are going out. And then June 7th is the big day.
Well, if there was one tip that
Yeah.
you had to share with Iowa voters, what would that tip be when it comes to voting?
Well, this cycle, because of some redistricting and precincts changing, I want to make sure it's easy and smooth as possible. So do a little homework ahead of time. Make sure you know where your voting site is, because that may have changed. And you can go right to your county auditor's website, or you can call them, or you can reach out to our office, the Secretary of State's, and that's voterready.iowa.gov. And we have those sites. Just type in your own address and it'll show you where you should go. But I think that's the key thing. And if you've moved or anything's changed on your voter registration, you can update those as well before going in on election day. But we'll be happy to help you on election day as well. One last big plug I'd put out there is if you need some special assistance, we have curbside voting, and it's something that's becoming very convenient for people who maybe physically have some challenges or for other reasons don't feel comfortable out going into the physical polling site. When you get there, there'll be a curbside sign. It'll have a phone number on it you can dial, and the poll workers will come right out to your vehicle and help you out.
My tip would be, if you're planning on voting early, make sure you get that ballot in as quickly as possible, because like you said, no longer do auditors look at the postmark. You have to have that ballot into the auditor by election day. Secretary Pate, thanks as always for joining us and taking the time to talk with us today.
It's a pleasure.